everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Prince Podcast. I am your host, Freddy Gamez. I'm straight right into it. Let's talk about the NBA Finals that just recapped and ended. We have a new champions. Number 18 is going to Boston. The Boston Celtics defeated the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games at TD Garden this past Monday. Overall, when you look at the series, this was a lopsided series from start to finish. Boston was just the better team overall. Dallas tried. They took one game, game 4, to keep the series going for one more game. But no matter what, Boston was just a top team overall. And they are now champions this year. This is banner number 18, which is now an NBA record for most franchises with a championship in history, passing the Los Angeles Lakers, who were tied at 17 with them. When you look back at this series, it was a series that just really showed how dominant Boston was from start to finish throughout the start of the year. They had the best team in the NBA by a country mile, and these playoffs prove that they are the top team in the NBA right now. When you look at the stats that they had, let's go straight into their Finals MVP first, and that is Jaylen Brown. Now, he had a tremendous year, and this postseason, these playoffs, he took it up to a whole other level. And he was, in my arguable opinion, the best player on Boston these playoffs runs. He averaged 21 points a game, along with 5 rebounds and 5 assists, along with a steal per game and a block per game, while shooting a pretty good percentage from the field. He shot 44% from the field throughout the finals, and he was the best player, I believe, on the Boston Celtics this series. He really stepped up defensively as one of the better defensive players throughout these playoffs, and he showcased why he is part of a dangerous 1-2 tandem for a duo for the Boston Celtics, and then the other part of him, Jason Tatum, he had a great NBA Finals, averaging 22 points a game, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and he also averaged a steal a game while shooting 38% from the field. Now, those two right there, they are a efficient superstar duo. They both played great this year. These finals, they played tremendous as well. They both have great showings, and this, honestly, to me, they could be a potential duo to watch that could potentially rise into one of the best in the league right now. They already are one of the best in the league, but I can think they could be the number one best duo in the league, in the NBA as of today. And the thing is, they're both technically locked up in terms of contract lengths. Jaylen Brown has already secured his paychecks, and he's going to be secure for the next 5 years. But Jason Tatum, he's already got a contract, but he can be looking for a big deal this year. How big are we talking? According to reports, he's eligible to get a 5-year deal worth over $300 million. That's a lot of money. And to be honest, that is well-earned money. He's been great. He has been one of the cornerstones of the Boston Celtics for the past couple years now. And this playoff run, him winning the championship, he's pretty much earned that contract. And so did Jaylen Brown with his contract that he also has right now. And even then, this Boston team was loaded from start to finish. Jrue Holiday had a great postseason as well, especially these finals. He was on Luka most of the time, him and Jaylen Brown, and he was able to step up and deliver. He averaged 14 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, while shooting 53% from the field throughout the NBA Finals. He was superb. He was definitely a big part of why the Celtics were able to win a championship. And this is his second ring. He first won it with the Milwaukee Bucks a couple seasons ago. I would say about 2 years ago. Or no, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, he won his first ring with the Milwaukee Bucks. And his veteranship, his leadership to this team definitely I would say, was the biggest difference maker. And he was the X factor of this finals and their playoff success in general. Derek White was a great player as well for them off the bench as a 6-man. He averaged 14 points a game, along with 5 rebounds and 2 assists. And he really showed out, and he found a great fit here in Boston. I expect him to continue to play well. Al Horford, who filled in as a starter for most of these playoffs runs, he finally gets his first championship after 17 years in the NBA. He finally has captured the elusive Larry O'Brien trophy He is now going to say that he is an NBA champion. And I truly expect him to continue to play for at least one more year. If he really want to, he could just retire right now, and no one could blame him. He's a multiple-time All-Star. He's secured lifelong, multiple contracts that have secured his wealth and his family for life. And he can now say he's the NBA champion. And so it's well deserved if he decides to retire. But he's expected to play again next year. And here's the thing with this Boston team. They did it this entire run, their dominance. They did it while even being at full strength. And that's because they were missing one man, and that was former Dallas Mavericks player who ended up being a really big piece during the first two games of these finals, and that is Kristaps Porzingis. He averaged only 12 points a game, along with 4 rebounds and 2 blocks as well. But those first two games of the finals, those were just masterpiece performances. And he was coming off the bench too. And even then, he got injured again on his knee. And it's been reported he's already getting surgery on it right now to rehab and recover for next season. Whether he's able to be available for opening night for the Boston Celtics, their first game of the season, or later on down the road next season. But he was a big difference maker. His presence was felt, especially during Game 1. He set the tone for how this series was going to go against the Dallas Mavericks. And even when he went down again for Games 3 and 4, he was still able to play for Game 5, but he didn't play as much due to said injury. But even then, even without Porzingis, Boston would have still won the series, in my opinion. They had the depth, they had the talent, they had the coaching led by Joe Mazzulla. And this team was crafted and put in place through years of drafting, through key contract signings, key trades made by former general manager Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens. And now you get to see the team that they are right now and the championship contenders that they are. And even then, their bench was still pretty good as well. Obviously, Derek White and Al Horford were two key ones. Sam Hauser played solid for them, and so did Peyton Pritchard for them, especially those clutch threes. That 3 he made in Game 5 to end the first half, that half-court shot, that just shows you that's just him be off the bench. He didn't even play that much. He only played like 12 minutes, but even then, he played phenomenal. He played pretty solid as well. So this Boston team in my opinion, was definitely the team that everyone expected to win. And they finally lived up to those expectations and now finally have captured banner number 18. Do I think they could run it back next year and possibly win number 19? Yes, I do. Most of the players that are currently on the Celtics are already locked up to contracts for the next 2 to 3 years. And they have what it takes with the right coaching, the right management that they have right now. They definitely can run it back and could potentially be the next dynasty in the NBA, like the levels of the Golden State Warriors, like the levels of the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan. They could possibly reach that. Who knows if time will say for that, though? Obviously, this is their first championship with Jason Tatum, with Jaylen Brown, with this core that they have right now. But it is possible, and they can still look to add to players, add like any depth pieces that they look to add via the NBA draft that's coming up, or in this upcoming free agency through trades or contract signings to new players. So it'll be interesting to see how Boston will adapt and potentially improve on this already low team into possibly a juggernaut for next year and the upcoming years. So as for the Dallas Mavericks, they had a great year. This was a great year for the Dallas Mavericks. Nobody expected them to make it to the NBA Finals. I definitely didn't think they were going to make it, but yet they made it. They put on a miracle run and a fantastic time to catch on fire. They had Luka Doncic, the NBA scoring champion, and in these finals, he did his best. And this is with him being injured and hobbled up. He still averaged 29 points a game, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and shot 47% from the field. But there is a couple of weaknesses in Luka Doncic's game that I believe, as the number one player, which kind of led to the Mavericks' downfall. The biggest one was his complaints against the referees. I'll be honest, I like Luka, and he's a great player. He's definitely a talented player. But that man, he's got to stop complaining about the foul calls. His complaints, especially during Game 3, cost Dallas not only Game 3, but any shot of getting back into the series. How he played in Game 3 definitely was a not so good moment for him, and it demoralized the team's value because they were getting on a run, but he kept going fouls, he kept committing turnovers, and he kept yelling at the refs. He yelled at the bench and being like, "Hey, challenge that foul call," when it was clearly a foul. He honestly, for him, this will be a great experience. This is good playoff experience, especially finals experience for him to grow and evolve on. But if there's one thing, if he's going to lead Dallas to the finals again and win it again next time, he has to stop complaining about the foul calls. He has to. He also needs to work on handling the ball better, as even though he was one of the best players on this team, he had a lot of turnovers during the series. He in the finals alone, he averaged 5 turnovers a game. He was very sloppy with the ball. He has to do better at handling the ball better in terms of passing and taking control of the offense as it runs through him. But even then, he also has more flaws to work on. His 3-point shooting, in fact, throughout the playoffs was terrible, but especially during the NBA Finals, he shot a measly 24% from the 3-point line. That is not good. When your top player is shooting 24% from the 3-point line, that's not a good thing. You expect more out of him. And not only was that issue, those two things the issue, his defense, he was arguably probably Dallas's worst defense player on the court. And that's saying something considering he is their franchise player, which he would definitely need to work on this offseason. Drew not only some rest because he had ailments. I get the knee, I get the ankle, I get the ailments that he had. But when your top scored, your franchise player is getting pretty much destroyed defensively by Boston's talent, he needs to step up. He needs to be better at that. He needs to be a better defender. And I think that this finals run and these playoffs was more of a great learning experience for him, but it also shows him what he needs to work on and what he needs to be better at if he really wants to take Dallas back to the finals and potentially win it all again. And it's not just him. Kyrie Irving, he tried his best. He averaged 20 points a game, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 and a steal as well. But he also struggled mightily throughout these finals as well and throughout this playoff run. And especially in the finals, considering he was facing his old team in Boston, it was a hostile crowd with him. Games 1, 2, and the eventual Game 5. And he struggled mightily in Boston. And even his shooting was not as well as Luka's. He shot 41% from the field, but his 3-point shooting was just as bad as Luka's. He shot 28% from the 3-point line. That's not going to get the job done, especially against a team like Boston, and especially as your number 2 player. You kind of expect more out of him, out of Kyrie Irving. But even then, I still think that this is the best fit for him as a Maverick. And this is saying something considering when he first came to Dallas in a trade last year, I was against the deal because I felt like it wasn't going to work out. Clearly, I have been wrong. This deal has worked out well for the Mavericks. It was a big risk that has had such great rewards for them to get him to the finals. And I do think he has found the right fit for him here in Dallas. Hopefully he stays. Hopefully this works out between him and Luka. But even then, this series showed that Dallas needs more out of just more than just those 2 players. They need more out of the rest of the team. PJ Washington was a great great trade addition that they made as a trade deadline. But as a number 3 scorer, averaging 11 points a game, you kind of hope for more from that out of your number 3 scorer. And he disappeared during the NBA Finals. He had a rough series. He had a great series against the Oklahoma State Thunder in the second round. He cemented himself as the number 3 option for Dallas. But in these finals, he struggled mildly. He shot 27% from the 3-point line and shot 41% from the field as well. And considering his game 5, how he only put like 2 points, it's not a good look. He'll get better. I don't think him now having some playing time with Luka, Kyrie, and with the Mavericks. I think that with the offseason, being able to bond with them and build up a better chemistry with them, I believe he'll be better next year. But you could hope for more out of your number 3 scorer if you can do better than PJ Washington. As for the other trade piece and Daniel Gafford, he's not bad. He had a great showing, especially defensively. He was a good defensive player for the Mavericks, and him, which was the constant rotation between him and Derek Lively, the other rookie bigman, which I'll get to in a second. He's not bad, and I do think that he'll also do better next year, especially since he'll have more time to bond with his teammates, with Luka, with Kyrie, with the other Mavs, and I do think this experience will elevate him into a better role player as well. And especially for Derek Lively as well, he as a rookie he had a phenomenal postseason as well. He averaged, and especially these finals, he averaged 2 blocks a game during these NBA finals. He even made a 3-pointer. That was like he made a 3-pointer in Game 4. He made an NBA level 3-pointer. He had never made a 3-pointer before in the NBA up till that point. And it's going to be interesting to see how this Mavs team will look to move forward, as they clearly need more. Scoring wise, defensively, they need better defenders. Even though they were the best defensive team past the All-Star break, and they were one of the best teams in the NBA in general past the All-Star break, you could look for more. And I do think that some players that they might let go, the number one is Tim Hardaway Jr. I expect him to be either traded or signed with another team during this offseason, as he's now, in my opinion, deemed obsolete from Dallas, which is crazy considering he was the Mavs' number 3 leading scorer during the regular season. But this playoffs run, he didn't really do much, and he wasn't really utilized much as well. And his defense was not the best either. And the same goes for Dwight Powell, who isn't really in the rotation anymore, but just for the sake of it, I think he should be gone as well. And as for other players that they might try to keep, the only player I can see them trying to keep is Derrick Jones Jr., as he had a pretty decent season for them in this playoff run. He had a pretty solid series against Oklahoma City Thunder, against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he had some good scoring moments, good moments. Yeah, I do see him staying here for at least another year, but it's gonna be interesting what this Mavs team does, as this free agency is an interesting time. There are some very notable players that Dallas could go after, considering depending on who they leave, and especially with the NBA draft. It's pretty much simple with the NBA draft. And this is not to bash any of the other talents, like the number 1 picks, number 2, number 3s, any of those. You draft Bronny James Jr., you're going to sign LeBron James. LeBron is currently on the last year of his contract with the Los Angeles Lakers, but he has a player option that he can either accept or decline to become a free agent and go to a team that whoever drafts Bronny, LeBron's probably going to go play with them. But even then, I don't see that happening, especially considering at time of recording, the Lakers just hired JJ Redick to be their new head coach due to the fact that him and LeBron have a podcast together. So I do think LeBron will stay with the Lakers. But as for free agents that are currently available that I could see Dallas going after, there's some interesting ones. We're going to start with the lower level ones. Miles Bridges of the Charlotte Hornets. Despite the antics he had off the field, off the court, on the court, he could be a potential player that I could see Dallas going after. Same goes with Gordon Hayward of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He didn't really do much for the Thunder, but I could definitely see him joining the Mavericks in some sort of way. Or they can try and go for an interesting piece in the form of DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls, as he's a free agent currently, or Tobias Harris of the Philadelphia 76ers, as those two guys could be the potential number 3. They can space out the floor well for the Mavericks. They can provide better scoring options in depth, along with some sort of defensive presence, especially Tobias Harris, as well as I believe that he's one of the better defenders out of the bunch. Or they could take a risk, and this is a really big risk. They could try and go after, let's say, a Russell Westbrook, or a Klay Thompson, or even a James Harden. Who knows who they go after? But those are some of the free agents that currently are available as of right now that Dallas could potentially go after and sign to replace either Derrick Jones Jr. or to add as depth pieces. But those are some of the top players that if Dallas wants to try and make it back to the NBA Finals, these could be one of the players that they could potentially be going after to help get them back into the finals and be champions this go around. So, but that'll do it for this episode of the Prince Podcast. If you guys like this podcast, please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and just remember, God loves you. He wants the best for you. He has a great plan for you guys, and He wants the absolute 100% best for y'all, and He will always be with y'all at all times. Take care. God bless. See you guys next time. Peace.